Welcome back. Now, this should have been edited into approximately 3 segments. There's going to be some brokenness, but this segment has no gameplay. We're going to talk about the dig for just a brief period of time, share our mid-playthrough thoughts. I assume we're mid-playthrough because we've almost operationalized 3 out of 5 pentagons. I don't know how else to put it.
It is hard to understand what's happening in this game.
But Sean, I think I'd love to begin with some of your thoughts, as you are the, I think, perhaps the most understanding of the genre academically.
Okay. Well, so the thing that strikes me that I find really interesting about this is that the puzzles that we're solving, some of them make a lot of sense and some of them make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Which is very similar to King's Quest. Like, some of those puzzles made a lot of sense and some of them didn't. But I felt like where the puzzles in King's Quest were all really grounded in sort of narrative and sort of completing narrative, the puzzles in this, I mean, obviously there's a geometrical theme, but there's a much more of a... Bill has turned himself into Batman.
Oh.
Like,
ignore me.
There's much more of a like mathematically logical sense to these puzzles of like there's not narrative that we're completing. There's not like we're recognizing stories and how stories are supposed to go and that's guiding our decision making. We're like, you know, recognizing shapes or patterns and trying to replicate them in different places. It's a much more it's a different kind of logic. Is that just me, or does that like feel?
No, I agree. This one's more like math puzzles, which is also like I mentioned Myst before. That has the same problem, which is like, what the hell do these math puzzles have to do with any of the narrative at all? You know, like.
Well, and I don't know that it's a problem, Bill, because sometimes, like when it's really singing, it feels like I'm trying to understand an alien mind.
Right.
And that would be, you
Which
know,
is part of it. That's
common...
actually part of the narrative, right? So
totally.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel totally out of place.
But it's less
just a very different aesthetic.
Less story based.
Yeah.
You know, I will say, like, there's something so one of my favorite examples about the narrative of a game supporting the gameplay of a game is Plants vs. Zombies. So it's tower defense, and that's a weird concept. That you're going to put down defensive structures, and the enemies are not going to fight them. They're just going to wander aimlessly like a bunch of dirtleheads to the end, and you're just trying to prevent people from getting to the end. That's like the core definition of a tower defense game. But in Plants vs. Zombies, or excuse me, if you've never played tower defense, or if you're not that much of a gamer, such as someone who just got an iPad and who's just scrolling through the App Store, tower defense is going to be kind of an alien topic unless you pose it as Plants vs. Zombies, which seems insane. That seems like a stupid, made-up, just-for-fun thing. But plants are rooted in ground. They can't move. So there's your tower part. They do different things. Zombies mindlessly wander forward. Okay, cool. That explains that. So it's one of the best examples of, I think, narrative supporting gameplay. And when you think of our experience with King's Quest, a lot of those puzzles were just stupid is the way that it felt. Like, when you finished it, you would go, wait, what? And I think it's really smart that they said, okay, well, if this is you really experiencing the craziness of alien technology, why not make it a graphic adventure game where a lot of stuff doesn't make sense and the end user isn't supposed to understand it? But I think the thing that's uncomfortable for me is that because I've played other graphic adventure games, when I play this game, I don't trust that I have all the pieces at any point in time. When we were on the turtle puzzle, I mean, this should be a very simple puzzle. Here's the screen. You have everything you need to solve it on the screen. There you go. But I didn't believe it. I was like, let's go. Wait, maybe we need another bone. Maybe there's a diagram that shows how the bones are supposed to be arranged.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then
maybe there's another turtle you can look at.
Yeah. You saw me walk off screen and walk back on screen to see if the turtle being eaten animation would pull off again, so I could look at the turtle as it was dying. And I think that as much as the mystique and mystery of, ooh, what happened? People love that shit. But I don't know, for me, I across the board struggle with those puzzles and adventure games where it just doesn't, there's no rules. It feels like in adventure games. There's no, like, you have everything you need here. There it is. Like, we just found a blue rod in a cave. And there's 4 blue rods with the 5th one missing at some place 2 hours ago. We didn't even see it in this day's segment. We saw it in the last day's segment. So I'm not necessarily saying this is an issue with this game. I think this is sort of how the genre has trained me.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think you're absolutely right.
I'm absolutely right, Sean. Boom. Thank you for saying that.
You're always absolutely right.
100%. Wow.
I want to bring up the thing of how the characters in this game are always a couple steps ahead of us at understanding what they're looking at.
That is so super weird.
And the funny thing is it's Spielberg, right? So doesn't that also happen in Indiana Jones when it's like, oh, we have to put the thing into the thing and then the thing will happen, and it's like they just do it and then the audience gets to catch up.
Whatever the third one was with Sean Connery, when he's going through the thing and he's got the little journal and he like figures it out like just in time, all of the little traps.
The penitent man will pass. The penitent man shall pass. Oh, penitent. Oh, Neil. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Jeez, this was a good one. You got it. I don't know. Is that a Sean Connery? I don't know. Maybe it's that guy who played Gimli. Who the fuck knows? But it's like...
It's good you learn to kneel.
Oh, yeah, we named the dog Indiana. Like, you named the dog Indiana. And then the dog's in the corner just like, I'm Indiana. You know, he's learning to say his name part time.
Yeah.
Anyways,
this is where we highlight our thoughts about the game thus far.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's weird is that in a movie, the characters are like external to you, and there is sometimes the everyman character where you're supposed to really identify with that character, but you still view it as like an external person. But it's weird in a game because, like, I don't think that Boston Lowe's a different dude. I'm like, we're Boston Lowe. And when Boston Lowe's like, I want to keep everyone safe, I'm like, I guess I want to keep everyone safe. I'm ready to role play. I'm like, all right, everyone, it's time for everyone to put your pencils into your pockets because the sharp ends are pointed outward. You know, I'm here to make it safe. Like, I want to just say stupid things like that. And so when he says stuff that I don't understand, I'm like, no, Boston, you don't know that because I don't know that because we're the same person.
Yep.
That's always a really weird line.
It is a weird line. What you're describing is the difference between objective and subjective storytelling.
Yeah. What is that? Like, define those for me.
So, objective storytelling is when the character that you are controlling as a player, all of the characters in the world, have their own identity. Their identities are set. Their stories are sort of being told external to you as a player. Like Kratos, for example. Like, Kratos is not me, right? He's got a whole backstory. Like, he's got shit with his parents or his family,
he has baggage.
He's got baggage, like all of that stuff. He doesn't look like me. He doesn't act like me. Doesn't matter. He's his own guy. And then there's in games like Dragon Age, for example, would be what we would call subjective storytelling. In that game, like, I'm choosing what the character looks like. I'm choosing what the character's name is. I choose dialogue options for the character. I choose, like, what kind of a character is this going to be. The character story is my story. I'm telling that story. It's a subjective story. It's based on my input. So, but there is kind of like a weird fuzzy line between them, and I think the Dig is playing not in a great way with whether this is supposed to be an objective story or a subjective story. Are we supposed to be identifying totally with the character, which is what it feels like a lot of the time, or are we supposed to be sort of watching a character do something, which would be a more like objective standpoint, which happens every once in a while when he says something totally like out of the blue that I don't understand.
So another technique-wise, one thing that they're not doing is testing us on our comprehension of stuff before assuming that we have it, right?
Right. No, totally.
Like, you know, if they
Well-
put in a gate that meant we needed to show that we understood that the canister was a bomb, then, you know, we would do that, and then all of a sudden our guy would know it. But in this case, they're like, oh, well, I'm sure that those pictographs, you know, it's like, good job, Steve. We'll put those right in the game. You know, no. Don't ask your wife if she understands. No one. I'm sure everyone will get it. Let's not do any user testing. It'll be fine. You know what? If they don't catch up on it, they'll listen to the dialogue and they'll, you know. It's like,
Yeah, I guess like a lot of other games that are not even considered puzzle-solving type games do that, where in like a shooter, you will be walking out of a building, and then your allies will ambush you and try to kill you, and it will be an action sequence where you kill them, and then when you get through that, you'll go to your ally and be like, dude, the other guy was actually the bad guy, and he's a traitor. Like, you are conveying to the character what the experience that you just went through is. But man, does it feel jarring here when he's like,
Yeah.
hey, wow, it looks like this must be a respiratory device used for crystals because they breathe. And I'm like, what the fuck? What? No, they don't. And
I think my favorite one so far was, well, now I can check out that underwater cave. Yes, I can.
So, I mean, it is literally creating for me this sort of sense that there's more to the story than I'm hearing. I feel like Boston is an unreliable narrator. I feel like it's going to actually turn out that Boston knew more about this situation than he let on from the beginning.
Well, he did at the beginning, right? He knew that he had secret orders.
He had secret orders. Which that right there, like, I wouldn't feel a betrayal from that. Like, but he's, the way that he's expressing this sort of knowledge of things before the player knows it, I don't know. I don't know how much credit to give to this game, but as an experience, like as I'm playing it, I feel like that's foreshadowing for me that he knows more than I do. He's holding something back. He's holding something back from everybody.
Maybe he's secretly a frogman.
Maybe he is secretly a frogman, and that's how he knew their anatomy so well.
Well, no. That was the turtle. The frogman is one of the guys.
Oh, you think the frogman's different than the turtle?
Well, the frogmen are the ones that shook hands with the birds.
No, I know.
No, they turn the birds
the turtle's
around.
just a turtle, I think.
The turtle's just a turtle?
Yeah.
Got it.
Imho.
But it's a multi-turtle. It's not just a single turtle disc, it's 2 turtle discs.
Multi-turtle.
Multi-turtle.
Two
He knows it's a multi-turtle.
He knows it's a multi-turtle. Yeah. No.
This is multi-turtle.
I understand what you're saying, though. It's like what? How much does he know? And then his stupid little PDA has like alien stuff on it, and it's like, well, what are we in for here? You know?
Yeah. So, Sean, have you seen this? Have you been made aware of this like PDA conspiracy thing?
No.
So apparently,
PDA gate?
viewers, PDA gate, viewers after the last episode informed me and Bill that the logo, the like manufacturer's logo on your PDA, is that weird little tetragram thing that we had to solve on Attila in order to get transported halfway across the galaxy. It's the exact same shape, which is super crazy weird.
Yeah, everyone knows there's a guitar strum waiting at the end of that one.
So I don't know, like that sort of plays into the idea, I guess, that there's more to this story, that there is some kind of a conspiracy, and maybe, you know, we feel like we're supposed to be inhabiting Boston, and there are parts of the game that really reinforce that aesthetic of inhabiting the character. Like, I'm gonna say, for example, the stupid door puzzle where you have to click it 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
Like, there's a connection between you and the character because you are required to do this sort of tedious thing that the character is doing.
You're like activating his fingers, basically.
Exactly. Like in a game by its nature has the ability to abstract some of that stuff out. and
Right.
say like, yeah, okay, you'd have to click this a million times to actually do it, but we're not going to make you actually do that. The fact that it does, the fact that it chooses to make you actually do it, it creates this sense that you are the character, creates a connection, this sort of like inhabiting the world, inhabiting
especially
the character.
if you don't actually want to do it. Like, it's not that fun to click the things, but
No.
man, I don't know. There's a certain I think only kind of related. But I think one of my favorite instances of that was in Warcraft 3 campaign. And if any of you haven't played it, then this is a spoiler for just the first chunk, the first campaign in Reign of Chaos. So you just need to play this. You play as Arthas, who gets really pissed, and he starts to go mad, and starts, like, there's a mission where all his people want to leave. So what he does is he cuts a path back to the boats and destroys the boats before the troops can get back there. And then when the troops finally arrive, he lies to them and says, "Men, the enemies have sunk our ships. We can't go home. We have to press forward." And that's a weird mission, because you're like, ooh, because you are the one instructing Arthas to, like, killings. You're like, ooh, and then he goes straight evil after that, like, which is it's a really cool feeling, because you don't actually get to do that in a lot of other games.
I mean, there is, like, inhabiting the character during that flip when it goes from like, I have a trust with the designer, I have a connection to the character, I feel like this is a subjective story, this is my story, and then all of a sudden having the story taken out of your hands and say, oh, no, the character doesn't do that, the character doesn't do what you want him to do. That is an amazing feeling. Like, that's really one of the strengths of games that you see it exploited occasionally, but it really deserves to be called out, because it's something you can only do in an interactive setting. It's a different experience than, like, watching a movie where the guy you thought was the good guy turns out to be the bad guy. There's something like really magical about playing that character.
Well, and the thing with, like, Arthas reminds me of objectives in games, like, and setting an immoral objective is pretty interesting, because then you got to be like, what is art? Who am I? What is play? And there's some games that did that, like, what the Brenda Romero's game.
Yeah.
The train one. Train. That's a good, example of that. I don't know. You can look that up if you want. Hard to summarize that one.
Well,
but,
since I'm going to say that we have 3 minutes left for this segment. So, Bill or Sean, if you want to take a final thought of our mid-playthrough and your thoughts on the dig. Bill, let's start with you.
I'm thinking there's going to be a big reveal at the end of this game. I think there's going to be a big reveal with secrets. Secrets being revealed narratively.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm looking forward to it. I just hope it's not dumb.
I feel like my final thoughts on it are, I didn't think about all these connections or any of that stuff. I take a lot of games that are just a lot of media experiences at face value as I'm going through them, which means I have this crazy suspension of disbelief where I'm just like, oh, of course he's a turtle. Like, wow, no! But I think on that note, like, this is something, like, also with my media, if I'm bored or a little bit like, what? Like, part of the way through it, I actually just stop. That urge to know what happens, I don't have that urge at all. I can watch 90 minutes of a 120-minute movie and turn it off and feel fine. Which means that if something is a little bit, I'm just like, I'm done, I'm out of here. And if there is a big reveal, I think this is something that happens a lot when there's big reveal stories, that the reveal itself is a wonderful and amazing and great payoff. But often the lead up and the build up to that is
slow.
It's slow or confusing, and it's not compelling. Like, I think some of the greatest twists there are twist that if it was not there, it would still be a really good piece of media.
That's a good
it
point.
would be great. Like I'll take Sixth Sense that has an interesting ending, I guess I would say. If you watch 90% of that movie, you'd be like, oh my god, that's great. It's a really good movie thus far. And it didn't need the twist, but the twist went the extra mile to really make it interesting. The Usual Suspects went the extra mile to make it a little more interesting. And if this has something interesting at the end, I'd be like, well, you made Boston Low just look dumb all game. And then he turned out to be someone amazing. Why'd you make him look so dumb? Boston Low's me. I'm not dumb. I'm smart, but I don't understand what Boston Low understands.
Yeah.
So
You don't understand what he understands about making traps for vermin. That's for
Because I will say, if the game just kept this pace and ended, I'd be like, wonderful example of a 90s graphic adventure game and the strengths of it and the weaknesses of that type of game. Cool. But if it was like, it's because there's a twist coming, I'd be like, you let me down, you know?
Interesting.
Ooh, I thought that was going to be the first ever on-air self-destruction.
Seppuku, yeah.
Wow. It's a hell of a mic drop.
Bam. Yeah. Like, if there's a bad twist ending, then I'm not satisfied with the middle. And he killed himself on that point. Those were his last words. Didn't even choose a notable modern game. It was an old one that some have heard of. And he just offed himself on air to have the final word. And the stream just stayed on for days. Okay. I almost committed Sudoku.
Sudoku.
Nice.
But Sean, your final thoughts?
I just want to bring up the fact that dude came back to life at the beginning of today's episode. Like, that was crazy.
Yeah.
And I feel like if this were a Steven Spielberg movie, if this were any movie, the amount of narrative weight that would be given to that moment, to that event, that plot point of, holy shit, we discovered a way for people to come back to life. Like, that would be huge. That would be such a scene. And in the game, it was kind of like we broke an egg over on top of him, and he made a couple of wry comments, and then that was it. We were done.
And then when you met up with the other woman, she didn't even say hello. She's just like, I hope he's the same guy he used to be.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a sense that the pacing and the dialogue and just the way that scenes are constructed, this game does an incredible job of constructing shots in a cinematographic way.
Yeah.
But the way that it constructs scenes and the beats that the actors are taking, the way that I understand their motivation,
the emotional beats are all gone. They're none.
It's crazy. It's really, really weird.
Orson Scott Card. No emotions.
Orson Scott Bard. Ooh, Jesus. I'm Sean Plott.
And I'm... What? Bill Grainer.
Yeah. Bye!
Bye!
We're gonna play this next week. We're gonna beat this puppy. This is getting slain. We're gonna beat a puppy to death next week on Mostly Walking. There's the show over. Mostly beating puppies. See you next week, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. It was a blast.